It's pretty hard to go a day now without bumping into AI somewhere, isn't it?
Definitely.
I mean, you've got self-driving cars getting closer, those voice assistants, knowing what we want maybe before we do.
Yeah, or the personalized shopping suggestions that are sometimes a bit too good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even, AI helping doctors with diagnoses. It really makes you think.
Absolutely. It's an incredible time for innovation. And what's really cool is that actually getting started, building these kinds of systems yourself, it's becoming much more doable for almost anyone.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to explore how you can kick off your journey into artificial intelligence using Python.
Right, Python, which our source material calls the most loved programming language in the AI world.
It seems to be everywhere in AI. So yeah, our exploration today is based on the book Python for AI Developers by Raja Menikam and Tani Muthu.
It's a really solid guide for anyone wanting to grasp the basics, start building.
So our goal for this deep dive is pretty simple, really. We want to give you a clear, hopefully engaging understanding of why Python is such a big deal in AI.
And crucially, how you can take those first steps yourself.
Yeah, we're trying to pull out the really key nuggets, the essentials to get you going without getting bogged down in super complex stuff right away.
And actually, for anyone who is keen to jump in deeper after this, there's a discount for the AI course at rajamanikam.com.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just use the coupon code QPT.
Okay, good to know. QPT. We'll mention that again later. So What are we actually digging into today? What's the plan?
Okay, so first we'll look at why Python is the favorite, the main reasons. Then we'll walk you through setting up your own coding environment.
The practical stuff.
Exactly. Then we'll cover some basic Python concepts you'll need and the really important libraries, the tools, basically.
Okay.
And finally, we'll just touch on machine learning and deep learning, give you a little taste of what those are about.
Okay. Sounds like a good roadmap. So let's jump into that first part. Why Python? I mean, there are tons of programming languages out there. What makes Python the go-to for AI?
Well, according to the source, a huge factor is just how simple it is. The syntax, the way you write the code, it's designed to be readable, almost like plain English in places.
Right.
Which means when you're trying to solve an AI problem, you can focus more on the problem, the logic, and less on memorizing weird symbols or complex.
That makes total sense. You want the language to help, not hinder. What else? Simplicity is key, but there must be more.
Oh, yeah. Another massive thing is Python's ecosystem of libraries. Just huge. Think of them as pre-built toolkits for specific jobs in AI.
Toolkits, okay. Like what?
So you've got NumPy. That's fundamental for anything with numbers, especially arrays and matrices, which is basically how AI models, see and handle data.
Okay. NumPy for the number crunching.
Then there's Pandas. That's a real powerhouse for data analysis. It makes it way easier to load, clean, organize, and understand big data sets using things called data frames.
Data frames, right. So NumPy handles the raw numbers. Pandas helps us make sense of the data itself. What about actually seeing it? Visualizing data seems crucial.
Absolutely. And Python's got you covered there too. Libraries like Matplotlib and Seaborn are great for that.
Okay.
They make it pretty straightforward to create all sorts of charts and graphs. So you can actually see the patterns in your data or, understand what your AI model is spitting out.
Makes sense. And then for the actual AI part, the machine learning stuff.
Yeah, Python really shines there. There's scikit-learn. It has a massive collection of ready-to-go algorithms for, let's call it, traditional machine.
Like what kind of tasks?
Things like classification, sorting emails into spam, not spam, or regression predicting house prices, clustering, grouping similar customers together. Scikit-learn has tools for all that.
Wow, okay. So that covers a lot of ground. But what about, the really complex stuff, deep learning, neural network?
Python's central there too,
Yeah.
mainly thanks to these incredibly powerful frameworks, TensorFlow and PyTorch.
Heard of those?
Yeah, they're basically the industry standards for building and training the complex neural networks that power a lot of the advanced AI we see today.
Okay.
And if you're interested in language, getting computers to understand text or speech, the natural language processing.
NLP, yeah.
There's the Transformers library from a company called Hugging Face that's really pushed things forward in NLP, and it's all Python-based.
It really sounds like whatever corner of AI you look at, there's a Python tool ready and waiting.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's not just the tools themselves. The book also really highlights the community.
The people using it.
Exactly. The Python developer community is massive and super active, which is a huge plus because if you get stuck, chances are someone else has had the same problem. And they've probably asked about it and gotten an answer on forums like Stack Overflow or somewhere similar. It's like having this giant free support network.
That's actually a huge relief, especially when you're learning something new and complex like AI, knowing you're not alone when you hit a wall.
Definitely.
What about the practical side? Like, does Python work everywhere? Different computers?
Yep. Another big advantage is its cross-platform compatibility. It runs happily on Windows, Mac OS, Linux.
So it doesn't matter what kind of computer you have, mostly?
Pretty much. Whether it's a basic laptop, a powerful desktop, even like a tiny Raspberry Pi computer, Python generally just works. And that extends to the cloud, too, which is where a lot of heavy-duty AI work happens.
And it's not just hobbyists, right? The big tech companies are using Python for their AI.
Oh, absolutely. The author specifically calls out Google, Meta, OpenAI, Netflix, Tesla.
Wow.
Yeah, all heavily relying on Python for their AI research and development. That kind of industry adoption tells you a lot about its power and reliability for serious stuff.
Okay, I'm sold. Python is clearly the place to start for AI. You mentioned an interesting little fact earlier about ChatGPT.
Ah, yeah, it's pretty cool. The book points out that the first version of ChatGPT, the one that really blew everyone away, it was built using Python frameworks like PyTorch and TensorFlow.
No way. That's amazing. A perfect example of what these tools can do.
Okay.
Okay, so we get why Python. Now, how do we actually get started setting up this development environment? Sounds technical.
It sounds more technical than it often is, especially these days.
Right.
The book breaks it into 3 main steps, and it's pretty straightforward. Step 1, install Python itself. You just go to the official website, python.org downloads, grab the latest version of Python 3.x.
Okay.
And here's a key tip. During installation, make sure you check the box that says something like add Python to path.
Add Python to path. Why is that important?
It just makes it easy for your computer to find and run Python from anywhere, like your command prompt or terminal, without you having to type out the full location every time. Saves hassle later.
Got it. Download Python 3, check the path box. Step 1, done. What's next?
Step 2 is choosing an IDE, an integrated development environment.
Okay, what's that?
Think of it as your main workbench for coding. You could just use a basic text editor, but an IDE gives you helpful features like code highlighting, suggestions as you type, tools for debugging, makes life much easier.
Right. Which ones are good for beginners?
The book suggests a few. VS Code, Visual Studio Code, is really popular. It's fairly lightweight, but super powerful, and you can customize it a lot.
Okay.
Then there's PyCharm, which is maybe a bit more heavy-duty, specifically designed for Python, also excellent.
VS Code, PyCharm.
And then there are Jupyter Notebooks. We'll talk more about those in a sec, but they're really common and useful for AI work.
Okay. And you mentioned a tip about VS Code for AI specifically.
Yeah, the book has a pro tip. Install the Jupyter extension within VS Code. That basically lets you work with Jupyter Notebooks directly inside the VS Code environment.
Ah, best of both worlds.
Kind of, yeah. You get the power and flexibility of VS Code with the interactive style of Jupyter. Lots of people like that setup.
Cool. Okay, so install Python, choose an IDE like VS Code or PyCharm, maybe with the Jupyter extension. What's step 3?
Step 3 is installing those essential libraries we talked about earlier, NumPy, Pandas, etc.
Right, the toolkits. How do we do that?
Usually with a tool called pip. It comes with Python. You just open your terminal or command prompt and type one command.
Just one.
Yep. Pip install NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, scikit-learn, hit enter, and it'll download and install.
Pip install NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, scikit-learn.
Okay. The book also suggests optionally adding Jupyter Notebook to that list if you want to run Jupyter separately from VS Code. So pip install Jupyter Notebook.
Wow. Okay, that actually sounds surprisingly simple, just typing pip install and the names.
It generally is, yeah. Once that's done, you've basically got the core setup ready to start exploring Python for AI.
Okay. You've mentioned Jupyter Notebooks a few times now. Can we dig into those a bit more? What makes them so special for AI?
Sure. So imagine a document, right? But instead of just text, it's divided into these blocks called cells.
Okay.
Some cells can have text like notes or explanations. Other cells can have actual Python code that you can run right there in the document.
You run the code in the document.
Exactly. And the output, the result of the code, or maybe a graph it generates, appears right below that cell. It's very interactive. Behind the scenes, there's this thing called a kernel that's actually executing your Python code.
Huh. So it's not just writing code, it's like writing code and seeing what happens step by step with notes alongside.
Precisely. And that makes them super valuable for AI for a few reasons. First, for learning. You can explain a concept in a text cell, then immediately show it with code in the next cell.
Makes sense.
Second, for exploring data. You can load data, run some analysis code, visualize it with a plot, all in one flow, seeing the results at each stage.
Right, you can follow the whole process.
And third, for prototyping models. You can tweak code in one cell, rerun just that cell, and see how it changes the outcome without having to rerun your entire script. It's great for experiment.
How do you start one?
If you installed it with pip, you usually just type Jupyter Notebook in your terminal, and it opens in your web browser.
Okay, that sounds genuinely useful, especially for trying things out. Now, the book also mentioned Google Colab. How's that different?
So Google Colab or Collaboratory is basically Google's version of Jupyter Notebooks, but it runs entirely online, in the cloud, and it's free.
Free and online, so no installation needed.
Exactly. That's the huge advantage, especially for beginners. You just need a Google account, go to colab.research.google.com, and you can start coding in a notebook right in your browser. It takes away that whole setup step we just discussed.
Wow, okay. That lowers the barrier to entry like a lot.
It really does. And there's another massive plus. Colab gives you free access to GPUs and TPUs.
What are those again?
Specialized computer chips, basically. They can massively speed up the process of training machine learning models, which can sometimes take hours or even days on a computer.
So you get free access to faster hardware.
Yep. Plus, since it's all in the cloud, your notebooks get saved automatically to your Google Drive. Easy to access anywhere, easy to share with others, kind of like Google Docs, but for code.
That sounds incredibly convenient.
It really is. The book strongly recommends Colab as probably the easiest way to just jump in and start experimenting without any setup fuss.
Okay, Google Colab. Definitely worth checking out for anyone starting. So right, we have our environment, maybe using Colab. What about Python itself? The book recaps some basics, right? What are the key things for AI?
Yeah, it does a quick refresher. First, variables and data types. Variables are just names you give to store data.
Like containers.
Exactly. And the data has different types, like strings for text, maybe name or Raj, integers for whole numbers, floats for decimals, age at 28, height was 5.7, and booleans for true or false, a student, true.
Pretty standard stuff. Variables hold info, info has types. Got it. What else?
Operators. These are the symbols you use to do things with the variables, like basic math, plus, minus, multiply, divide.
Plus mebra.
Right. And maybe exponentiation, like to the power of. So you can do a 10, b equals 3, then print a plus b, or print simple calculations.
Basic math. Okay, makes sense. Then organizing data. You mentioned lists and things before.
Yeah, Python has built-in ways to group data called data structures. Very important. There are lists, ordered collections you can change, like fruits, apple, banana, cherry,
Okay.
tuples. Also ordered, but you can't change them once. Good for fixed things like coordinates. Coordinates 10.5, 23.
Immutable, right.
Yep. Sets, collections where every item has to be no duplicates allowed, like unique numbers 1, 2, and 2, 3.
Okay, for uniqueness.
And dictionaries. These store data as key value pairs. Super useful, like person, name, Alice, age 28. You look things up by the key, like name.
Like a real dictionary. Key and definition.
Yeah.
Okay. The book goes in more detail on these, I assume.
Oh, yeah, much more detail. This is just a quick overview.
Good. And one more basic thing. Reusable code.
Functions. Yeah. Functions let you package up a block of code that does a specific task. You give it a name, and then you can just call that name whenever you need to do that task instead of writing the code out again.
Like making your own command.
Pretty much. The book shows a simple example like def greet name dot return f hello name. Then you can just use greet Bob or greet Alice. Keeps code organized, avoids repetition, essential stuff.
Definitely. Okay, so those are some core building blocks. Now, the book encourages actually doing something right away, doesn't it? Hands-on practice.
Yes, absolutely. It suggests trying out a few really simple things immediately, ideally in that Colab notebook we talked about.
Like what?
Like the absolute classic print, welcome to Python for AI, just to make sure you can run something.
The hello world of AI.
Kind of. Then maybe a tiny math example, like setting a equals 7, b equals 2, and printing their sum, and maybe a to the power of b.
Is using those variables and operators.
Exactly. And maybe creating a simple dictionary, like that student example, and then printing out just the student's age by accessing it with its key.
So really basic stuff just to get the fingers typing and see results.
Yep. And the main action item it pushes is go to colab.research.google.com, click New Notebook, copy-paste those little code examples into the cells, and hit the run button for each cell.
Just do it. Get that immediate feedback.
That's the idea. Make it real. Make the concepts stick.
I like that. Okay, so we've covered the why Python, setting up the core tools like Jupyter and Colab, some basic Python syntax, and actually running our first lines of code. Where does the book suggest we go next? What's the path forward?
Well, it sets the stage for the next steps. It basically says, okay, now that you have this foundation, the next thing is to dig a bit deeper into core programming ideas.
Such as?
Things like control flow, how you make programs make decisions using if statements and loops, learning more about creating and using your own functions effectively, and understanding object-oriented programming, or OOP, which is a way of structuring larger programs.
So building up the programming skills needed for more complex tasks.
Exactly. Those concepts form the bedrock for really getting into the AI libraries that come later.
Okay. So wrapping things up for today then, it feels like we've laid down a really solid base. We've got a good sense of why Python is the king in AI.
Right. Its simplicity, those amazing libraries, the community.
We know how to get an environment set up, maybe using something super accessible like Google Colab.
Yep. Install Python, pick an IEE, or use Colab, pip install the libraries.
We've touched on the Python basics, variables, data structures, functions, and the importance of tools like Jupyter.
Giving you that interactive way to code.
It really feels like a practical launchpad for anyone curious about building intelligent systems.
That's definitely the goal, to give you that starting point.
And of course, for anyone listening who's thinking, okay, I want more, we definitely recommend checking out the source for the deep dive, Python for AI Developer by Rajamanikam and
Yeah, it'll take you much deeper into control flow, functions, OOP, and then really unpack those key libraries, NumPy, Pandas, scikit-learn, before moving into machine learning and proper.
one more time.
That's right. If you're interested in a comprehensive course, you can get a discount on the AI course at rajamanikam.com using the code
QPT. Got it. So maybe a final thought to leave everyone.
Well, maybe think about this. As you go about your day, try to notice small things that AI could potentially, or just a small problem or data set you find interesting.
Okay.
And then just think about how the tools we talked about today, Python, maybe a Colab notebook, could just start exploring it. Even if it's just loading some data and making a chart or thinking about a basic classification.
Don't aim too high initially. Just start tinkering.
Exactly. Take that first step, experiment, see where it leads you. That's often how the most exciting journeys begin.
Great advice. Start small, get hands-on. Well, thanks so much for walking us through all that.
My pleasure.
And thanks to all of you for taking this deep dive with us. Just a final reminder about that discount code QPT for the AI course at rajamanikam.com.